Hello and thanks for joining the first edition of Journalists Hangout. This week, I am Veronica Dani-Boy. There are 102 days to the conduct of Nigeria's 2019 general election. How prepared are you to participate in the process? Today on the program, Labour insists on strike over minimum wage, alleges clampdown bid by federal government as ASU begins indefinite strike. Buhari meets Amosun Akeredolu, fire me over APC crisis as Mosu says nobody can stop him from becoming Imo governor. And later on the show, UN reviews Nigeria's human rights record as army once shouts it does not have rubber bullets. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Utitoju, Charles Ideho and Martins Oloja. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the program.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, Journalist Hangout starts now. No doubt, Nigerians need a lot of buffer against economic hardship ahead if the threat of industrial action in the country is anything to go by. Organized labor is set for an all-out strike beginning from Tuesday over the vexed minimum wage saga. The Nigerian Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress and the United Labour Congress all insisted on embarking on an indefinite strike to force government to implement a payment of 30,000 naira minimum wage to workers. Last-minute truce called by government and a court injunction notwithstanding, the labour unions are set for a showdown. In the face of this, university lecturers commenced their own strike on Monday. After a meeting in Akure, the Ondo State capital on Sunday, officials of Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, called on members to down tools. Is it too late for a stay of action or time to seek the buffer solution, Chidi?
No, it's not too late. I hope that even by midnight today we'll hear the good news that innocent Nigerians have been spared the predictable hardship that will come with a nationwide strike. You know how it is. Anytime the nation is going through a nationwide strike, if the motor guys, otherwise known as the National Union of Road Transport Workers, get involved, there will be real paralysis.
Yes.
And not just real paralysis, they will man the road, and those of you who want to go and do your white-collar jobs, they are going to visit mayhem on you. And their argument is, if we are unable to go out and make money, why should the rest of you go out? So sometimes they will even force you to stay with them and man the highway to ensure that vehicles don't populate our roads on the day that the strike is supposed to be on. So this is the sort of thing that I really do not want to see, because as a journalist, I've seen colleagues beaten up, some of them ended up with black eyes. These guys hungry that they cannot go and make their daily money. You know, for most of them, they actually live for the day. So if there is a strike, it becomes really, really difficult for them. And once a few people, like a few commercial motorcyclists, or as they are called in some parts of the world, motorcycle taxis, try to capitalize on the situation and carry a few passengers who are desperate to get to work, these boys would visit mayhem on them, beat them thoroughly, and at that point you will know that the pain of workers going on strike is actually shared. So I am hoping that reason will prevail, and since at the level of the tripartite meeting, it was agreed that the minimum wage should be 30,000 naira. Then the federal government that is talking about 24,000 now, and governors should actually agree to pay the 30,000 that according to workers they actually agreed upon during the tripartite meetings, and they are saying that even the minutes of those tripartite meetings show clearly that the agreed sum was 35,000 naira. So I'm hopeful we are not going to benefit from a nationwide strike. In fact, the country will suffer adversely. So let our leaders use their heads and take a decision in the best interest of the country. I'm convinced that if we put aside the fraudulent security votes that politicians give themselves and the obscene wages that politicians pay themselves, if they agree in line with the difficult times that the rest of us Nigerians are going through, if they agree to even concede some of the things that they are gaining at this time, we will be able to pay this minimum wage.
All right, Martin, he said, or Jide said rather, that we would not benefit from a strike of the nature that the organized labor is looking at. But for them, they are saying that none of the 36 state governors are committed to upward review of this wage without being compelled by a struggle. How then do they pass their message across if they do not embark on the strike?
Well, you know, they don't have any option. They have to embark on this strike. But what we are saying, for instance, at the level of thinking, critical thinking, is that even this, my brother, is holding some data I know he wants to use. This 30,000 cannot take anybody anywhere.
Sure.
This 30,000. So as Jide said, you know, these governors, we know they are reckless, they are wasteful. Some Ogogo will say they are profligate. They are profligate. They waste a lot of resources. They have refused to do right sizing or downsizing or whatever kind of restructuring that they need to do to be able to pay. But more important is the fact that just as we did at the editorial level, editorial board level, the Guardian today, we wrote an editorial, minimum wage. Who is afraid of federalism? The thinking behind this is that saying that people should be taking the same minimum wage in 36 states and 774 local governments is against the spirit of federalism. Restructuring we are talking about. The condition in Lagos is different from the condition in Maiduguri. It's different from the condition in Port Harcourt and all these things. So we feel that even labor leaders at this time who are asking for 30,000 at all levels still is a product of unitarism. Still a product of the overthrow of federalism in 1966 when the army, when the soldiers of fortunes overthrew federalism, which enabled at that time even development within the states, within the regions. And this is where we are. I think it's inevitable. The way they have been negotiating this tripartite committee, they said they didn't invite them. They are not serious.
Who is not serious?
The government people are not serious. Even labor people, the way they have been using one strategy over strike, the 30,000 naira that they are negotiating without using data.
This is
the age
they
of the...
They started with something significantly higher than that.
Yeah,
56. It's like 56.
Even the ULC actually asked for 92,000.
92. You know, my own argument is that when these labor leaders want to meet with people, it should not be this at federal level. They should mandate these labor leaders at various levels in the states to negotiate what they think the government of that state can pay.
Can't do that, Martins.
They can't.
Hold on now. This is a constitutional matter. Let me explain. Let me explain. It's a constitutional matter. The Constitution says there shall be one minimum wage.
Yes.
Until you amend that Constitution.
That is exactly why I mentioned restructuring.
No, so you cannot blame them. You can't blame them that they are not negotiating at ward level or at state level or local government level because the Constitution stipulates that there shall be one minimum wage. The same way it stipulates that there shall be one police force. So until we amend the Constitution.
That is what I said.
Until we amend the
Constitution. Discussion point.
Let me also dig that.
It should be discussion point because this is the time they are amending the Constitution.
No, but the thing is, you cannot amend the Constitution by fiat.
Allow me to disagree with Martins.
Go ahead.
This is not about restructuring because even in the US, when they run a federal system of government, there is a national minimum wage in the US.
You can.
For instance,
so many of them,
no,
so many states. I understand that.
Let me finish.
You can pay even above.
You can pay above that.
No, there is a minimum. That's why it's called minimum. That is.
You can't be low. You can't
pay lower than that. So in the US, for instance, we have about 50 states. There are 29 states that are even paying above
the minimum.
But Massachusetts pays the highest.
You can't pay lower than what the federal system has mandated, which is hold on, definitely. For instance, in the US, we speak now, the minimum wage in the US, as we speak, is $7.25 per hour. That's what, and everybody's supposed to pay about. Nobody is supposed to pay lower than that.
Let me tell you, I understand.
So that's it. But hold on, even in
this editorial, we cite that Lagos State can pay higher than this.
Yeah, but then,
this is what you're asking. You can't blame Labour now at this stage because Labour cannot by itself amend the constitution.
What I mean is that
they are operating within the stipulation.
You know,
within the stipulation of the constitution.
You know what I'm saying is this. They should go beyond this level. Structurally, they should go beyond this level of this 30,000, talking about even amendment of the Constitution, talking about other issues.
One thing at a time.
We have been on this thing. We have been using this same strategy since I was born.
Would that make it more effective?
In fact, it will even make it worse because you are going to be distracted.
It is not
going to be distracted. One thing at a time. First things first. For them, the first thing is this minimum wage. They want the government to pay them a minimum wage that is higher than what they used to get. Because in 2011, before it was amended, it was 7,500. And then it was amended 7 years ago. The Constitution says after every 5 years. Yes. We are in violation of the stipulation of the Constitution by even going this way, by wasting time, by getting to this point before we are even talking about it. So Labour, yes, despite all the problems that they have, they've not done anything wrong. They are saying,
they haven't done anything wrong.
And if you want them to begin to talk, look, after this minimum wage saga, we can have another conversation about the need to amend this constitution.
But
we've been talking about
there are conversations most of the time after a struggle.
You cannot, no, there are even different things. You can't expect them to begin to push for minimum wage review and at the same time be pushing for an amendment to the Constitution.
And that is why we are
Labour cannot do that at the same time.
But if you also want to look at it, even the states, what I expect them to do, for instance, even the states are even calling for 22,000. They are not also following what is supposed to, because the states are not supposed to, they are supposed to follow what it is minimum nationally. What I expect the states to be doing, for instance, is that once it comes to the level of review, as Martin said, states can come to say, this is how much can pay. They before cannot submit such to federal government. When they are discussing, it will not be minimum. Not the federal government now imposing a minimum on them. That's exactly where I want to support him.
Federal government is not imposing any minimum. You are mixing these things up. Federal government has not imposed any minimum. The federal government says this is what we can pay, 24,000 now. The governor suddenly, after the tripartite meeting, you know, Labour has been saying, look, we have the minutes of this tripartite meeting. Yes. Release the report of the tripartite meeting. You will see clearly that we actually agreed on 30,000. Why did Yari and his people suddenly go back to say, oh, it's 22 that we can pay? My suspicion is that the governors were represented, each governor per geopolitical zone, 6 of them. And at the end, maybe some of Yari's colleagues as governors say, why did you agree to this 30? This is what we can pay. And then after that Yari now came out to say, no.
It ought to have been.
Before then. No, Yari now said, no, we cannot pay, that it is 22,000. So federal government has not imposed anything. All of them have to agree. That's why it's called a tripartite meeting.
Yeah, what I'm saying is first that before we got to this issue of throwing brickbats,
yes,
all the governors, they ought to have met and review all those things and agree before table the thing, before government can take it up from there. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Jide, you know what I'm saying?
They have no right to fix it. The government have no right to fix anything.
No, they are not fixing anything. They are saying this is what we can
pay. That's what I'm
saying.
Bringing this crisis.
If you are reading this thing from the beginning.
I have been following.
Now, organized private sector had their own.
Exactly.
You see, that is the nature of deliberations of this nature. you have what you can pay. You represent TVC. You have what you feel you can pay. He represents the Guardian. He comes with an idea. Because based on meetings that he had had with his own people.
Yes.
And then he is representing organized online media outlets.
Yes.
This is what we can pay. Now, you have to harmonize. You have to make concessions. You have to agree that, gentlemen, at this rate, what is the
minimum? What is the minimum? What is the minimum in all this?
Forget minimum first. Looking at these figures, gentlemen, how much do you think we can pay? And then we will agree. You will make your argument. He will make his argument. Those meetings are usually long. At the end of the day, you will hammer a kind of unanimity. Without unanimity, you can now say, okay, Labour, this is what we are saying. Labour can still say, no, we do not want that. Because you have to, Labour has to be represented. And Labour can say, no, this is not enough.
Jude,
and then it goes on and on.
What I am saying is that what he has just enumerated, it's not taking place. They have not been showing any level of seriousness that people can identify with.
Are you talking about
these governments are not meeting like that?
Now, what is happening is an afterthought. Why
should it be an afterthought?
You know that
Why should it be an afterthought?
Labour, let me tell you, you see the thing is, you don't understand how these governors are reasoning. And I've explained. Because in the tripartite meeting, one governor per geopolitical zone, what Yari said is an afterthought. And that's why Labour is angry. And Labour took the minute. Am I Yari's
governance is a serious matter. You have to have gotten this thing from the governor and agree.
Wait now. Even at that,
instead of coming back again.
Even at that, you say people agree to something, and when it comes to implementation, has the federal government not agreed with us so many times? Are they implementing what ASU has?
That's why we are here.
Now you should understand why this is happening. Those guys took the minutes of the tripartite meeting to the president. We said, look at what is here. That's why it feels like disrespect. That all of us will do hours and hours of meeting. We agree on something. Then suddenly some of you are going back to say, no, we can only pay less. Because maybe some powerful governors said, look, you did not represent us well. You should have tried to get a deal that is lower. But they miscalculated because now Labour is saying, oh, we don't even want to meet with you again. People that you cannot trust them, that they will honor their obligations. They will always be seen as dishonorable people. And that's why Labour is saying, look, we don't even want to have any meeting with you.
But I think the governors have a lot to learn from this. Before you go to the negotiation table, you must have what all of you will agree. This is what they take a figure to them rather than people, as BJD has said, maybe the afterthought. If you have taken a figure that is generally and collectively agreed, there won't have been a need for any afterthought.
If we agree,
we are subjected to them. We are subjected to them.
If we nominate as a body of journalists, if we nominate you to go and represent us, we trust that you have the wisdom, you have the know-how to negotiate.
That's right, on behalf of the body.
On behalf of us. Whatever you do, we should be able to respect your decision.
That's right.
Your judgment.
But what I'm taking there.
You don't now come, seize individuals,
and what I'm taking there,
and then come back and say, no, you are going back to 22.
To respond the argument, what I'm taking there, representing you, should be what has been agreed before I go there.
That is what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't come back again.
No. The thing is, if they started from 90-something, it is difficult
for us not to even know what they are doing.
You can't go into that kind of
the governors forum.
You can't go into that kind of negotiation without an open mind.
That's right.
And you can't be fixated. You are beginning from 90-something.
Yeah, no, you don't scaling it down.
You can at least you put people who have negotiating skills or negotiation skills. I don't know which
negotiation skills.
Now you put them on that team. Your hard-nosed negotiators. You put them there. Then you should be able to trust their judgment. If they went along with others to say, okay, it is 20 or 30 that we agree on, then you should be able to respect their judgment. So now you suddenly, I'm sure that Yari has succumbed to pressure because you cannot, after you've agreed on 30, and it wasn't, you can't agree on 30, then suddenly say, no, governors say they can only pay 22. No, you can't do that. Governors are just one. It's like a tripod. You have governors, you have organized private sector. You can't now come and say, oh, this is what governors can pay. No. And Labour is saying that we believe you can pay higher than that. In fact, so when I was researching, I saw that the consumer price index was 110.84 points in 2011.
11, yes.
Meaning that if you now want to pay a minimum wage, bearing in mind inflation at this time,
Yes.
you should be paying a minimum wage of 43,000 minimum.
Minimum.
Well, I what I was going to say,
43,000.
if in the US, as I said,
Yes.
if you look at it, the way if all the countries in the whole world, they all sit down to look at the minimum that everybody. For instance, I was telling Onoja, I said, even in UK, what do they pay over there? It's 1,463 euro per month.
Per month,
In
yeah.
Spain, it's 858 euro per month. And then, of course, it's in France. They also, all of them is that they all come
Island,
together.
yeah.
Island. They
In
all
the
come
US,
together and
it's
say,
per hour.
after they have all agreed, all this body, like all these structures, all of them, this is what, like that's what I was telling Jerry. I was saying that before states can do that, all states, Zamfara, Edo, Delta, how much do you think? We all agree. Then you take that
That's
figure
a
and
minimum.
give it to your representative
That's
who are
a
going to go over
national
there.
minimum.
That's how we should do it.
You must bear in mind that those governors didn't even want to do anything.
But they did that.
You do remember what the
exactly
minister.
what I mean.
Yeah,
They are
you do
serious.
remember what the
Yes.
Minister of Labour said.
Yes.
He said governors are refusing to
To
come and take
come
part
and
of the meeting. He said it.
So
he was
why-
quoted.
Because
Why-
even
why-
the
why?
Is it people don't want to do meetings that will now say, oh, we want to.
even the
So I think
Gentlemen,
you should blame them
we
for
need to
failing
move-
to do the
move
necessary
on.
meeting
We need to
before
move
the
on.
meeting.
Even
All right,
the
we need
ethic,
to move on
Yes.
because these two parties are both at extreme positions,
That's
and
right.
they have to
They have to meet.
sit
Meet.
down.
Yeah, they have to
They
meet.
should get-
Because,
be
like
more serious.
we have agreed, we do not need this strike, but then
Yes.
the
We
message
don't,
has
we
to
don't, we
be
don't.
passed across.
Yes, that's
right.
What will be, well, the decider in this point? How can this all of this be resolved, Martin?
I know that they should have an open mind. As she said, an open mind, and also consider the operating environment and the prevailing condition at this moment, why they are doing this thing, and thinking of how to reform their mind and reform their processes so that they can pay what one can use to live as normal human beings in Nigeria. It's very important.
For me, national interest, even though Labour, what they are pursuing is legitimate, but national interest will be overriding because we are managing a very fragile economy. If we now begin to look at how people will now begin to go into, as Jide said, most people, they are earning daily pay. They are just earning wages. They go, maybe bricklayers, all of them, they are going, they live for the day. So they must look at the national interest as the overriding factor in this. Whether as they get to that negotiation table, let them put national interest first so that at the end of the day, people will not go hungry.
All right, quickly, we have a caller on the line. Are you still there? Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello.
Yes, good evening. Olusegun.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. I just want to contribute to the journalist hangout that is being said now.
Already?
Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening to the panel of discussants there.
Thank you. Good evening.
I appreciate what you are doing.
Thank you.
In respect of what is being discussed now, nobody is arguing, nobody is against the labor unions going on strike. But the part of the case is that what have they been doing with the high income of the what I call it, of the National Assembly makers, of the National Assembly members? That is good enough for them to go on strike. Nobody is saying they shouldn't go on strike. But the fact of the case is that what are they doing about the high income of the National Assembly members? That's for them to go on strike.
All right. Olusegun, thank you for your contribution.
That's not the work of
Jide,
Labour.
quickly before we go.
I think that ultimately, as a country, we should work towards a situation in which we don't have to increase minimum wage every 5 years. I don't think that is sustainable.
Can afford it, yeah.
At a point, we will be stuck. I don't think it's sustainable. And we must also look at the fact that inflation is caused when you put more money in the hands of the people. When you put more money in the hands of workers, as is likely to happen now, we are struggling already with double-digit inflation.
Yes.
So it will even go higher. For organized private sector to pay the new minimum wage, they would need to increase the prices of their goods and services. And once you do that, inflation
Multiplies
gets
effect.
worsened. So we have to find a way. I don't think that the current system makes any sense, whereby you have to keep increasing minimum wage every 5 years. We must create a situation that makes life bearable for the worker, that makes housing accessible for the worker without having to pay through. So government policies must be deliberately cultivated to ensure that all the things that make workers to desire hefty wages, you can actually take care of them. We see that happen in the Scandinavian countries. That's why they rate those countries as the best places to live in, because government takes care of the needs of its people. You and I know that we have to sink our own boreholes. You sink your own borehole. Even in our community, sometimes we fix our roads by ourselves.
We buy transformer.
Life more meaningful to the people. And once you do that, things you create an effective transportation system. You don't have to increase minimum wage every 5 years.
Yes. All right, let's move on. When we return, Buhari meets Amosun Akeredolu Fayemi over APC crisis, as Nwosu says nobody can stop him from becoming Imo State governor. Stay with us. In human affairs, getting people working at cross purposes to be united for a task could amount to pouring water in a basket. This appears to be the dilemma President Muhammadu Buhari is facing in his quest to unite warring factions within his party, the All Progressives Congress (APC). In furtherance of his fence-mending efforts to ensure the APC goes to the 2019 elections in one accord, President Buhari met with Governors Ibikunle Amosun of Ogun State, Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo, and Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti behind closed doors, of course, to calm frayed nerves. In the midst of the conciliatory moves, however, a dissenting voice is still crying out loud. One of the governorship aspirants in Imo State, Uche Nwosu, is laying claims to the party ticket in the state. Nothing, he boasted, can stop him from becoming successor to his father-in-law, Rochas Okorocha. Is APC becoming a house divided against itself? Let's take a listen.
They do not have the locus stida to question how those primaries were conducted. And so the case was dismissed. Governor Mosu, having lost out through the law court, choose to resort to name dropping. And he has approached everyone he thinks can help him to undermine the extra provisions of the law and or the decisions of a competent court. He got some traditional rulers. The most prominent traditional rulers in Ogun State are well known. People like the Awujale of Ijebu, and so all those ones refused to attend, but he got some to attend, to come to Abuja, to persuade Abuja to put pressure on me to revise what has been properly done and to accept what is clearly unlawful. Not only unlawful, undemocratic, immoral, and it tantamount to abuse of power. Our constitution does not recognize emperors. There are no emperors in APC. If anybody tried to invent himself as one, it will be an exercise in futility. Certainly, with all sense of modesty, not under my leadership. I am clear about our rules, and I'm clear about power, and I'm clear about the limitations of those powers. Fortunately, I have been a governor for 8 years, and so I know what it takes to be a governor. I know the powers of a governor. I have subjected myself as a governor to primaries. I have passed through the tedious route, democratically, not only to get myself re-elected, but also work hard democratically to get my party to have, to conduct primaries in which we participated in Edo State and a candidate emerged. And today we are the only state in the South-South that has passed through not just winning an election democratically, but transmitting power to its successor without resort to thuggery, without anybody being hospitalized, without anybody being brutalized, and without any controversy about the outcome of those primaries. So, as it stands, based on the rules of our party and in accordance with INEC guidelines, we have since conducted governorship elections in Ogun State, and we have submitted the name of the winner, Prince Dapo Abiodun, to INEC for the purpose of the forthcoming governorship election.
That was Adams Oshomole there reacting to the fallout from the APC primaries. But like we asked, is APC becoming a house divided against itself? We knew that the president tried to do a fence mending like we earlier stated, but how much impact is this fence mending making, seeing that the noise, or rather the anger, there are still people talking about these issues, Chidi?
I think until it becomes clear that you can't do any more substitutions, that you just have to wait for the election, the noise will not stop. Those who are applying pressure on the president against the president's wish are doing that because they think he probably can still direct the national chairman of the party to take certain actions in their favor. But as we have seen, Governor Amosun has gone to Aso Rock repeatedly, but the president has not budged. People must understand this president, because sometimes people just set out to waste their time needlessly, believing that the president will intervene on certain matters. But he's not that sort of person. And if it will take you donkey years to understand Buhari's psychoanalytical makeup, then it's unfortunate, because the president will not step in and say, no, this is what has to be done, no matter how close you are to him. We all know that even his own brother-in-law, Dr. Halilu Modi, was even a victim of the sham called primaries in Adamawa State. But the president didn't, on account of that, intervene. He didn't intervene. Though when Modi got his nomination form, we saw that he actually posed with it with the president.
Yes.
But that has not pushed the president to say, look, you must do the primary, you must do a fresh primary so that his own brother-in-law can emerge. No, he has not done that. And these are people that he had related with for so many years, from the 90s, when he got married to Aisha. So it's a waste of time. And then what bothers me is that the president continues to meet with these people. As he's meeting with them, they will step out of the meeting with the president and begin to abuse one another. So how can the matter be resolved at that level? Because I know the president met with some aggrieved persons just the middle of last week or so. And the newspapers have reported Amosun taking pot shots at Oshomole, Oshomole abusing Amosun. In fact, Oshomole said the three governors were behaving like drug addicts, suffering from withdrawal syndrome. You know, you actually wanted to say syndrome. You know, suffering from withdrawal syndrome. You know, so it's unfortunate when you abuse, they try to make peace, and then you people step out and start abusing one another. The fighting will go on. There will not be peace at the end of the day. But I'm confident, since it doesn't appear like what has happened in Ogun State can be changed at this point. You know? Then Governor Amosun has to accept that sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. Oshomole resisted his attempt to unilaterally impose people, say he was not going to do primaries. He came up with the idea of a consensus by the governor, just the governor alone, determining the fate of people, saying, oh, out of 8 lawmakers, federal lawmakers, only 7 will not come back. The Senate, I am going to the Senate. Tejo Osho cannot go. Other people cannot go. You as governor, it wasn't as if you hammered out a form of consensus with people. And then you call that consensus. Consensus must have a different meaning if that is your own idea of consensus. And that's why it's been resisted in this manner. And then if there was supposed to be a competition, and then you stayed away, because that's the story of the national headquarters of the APC, that they stayed away from the primaries, and they went ahead, organized it, and then the NWC ratified the outcome of the primary. So you've lost out at the end of the day.
All right, Charles, for Shomole, like Jide mentioned earlier, or Shomole saying at the heart of this challenge is the trauma of going through change. Is that what it is?
I really don't envy Oshomole at this point. He inherited a party which we all believe will also stay in power for 60 years. We're already having this infighting, which of course is not very, very desirable at this point. But like him or hate him, I personally believe that what Oshomole set out to do would have done our politics a good, because power resides with the people. It is the people that collectively surrender their mandate and give to a few representatives. We're no longer practicing the Greek city-state democracy where everybody had to gather at the village square, share cola nut and say this is what's going to happen. That is why we appoint people who we represent, and these people must be represented by the popularity of the populace, which is what someone wanted to do, that people like Amosu have been fighting, our uncles in the Imo State have been fighting and so on. But as I said, Oshomole also has to know that he is also a politician. There is a side of him that wants things to be done properly. There's also a side of him which, of course, is the politician in him. He must learn. Number one, he has to talk with tact, which, of course, he's not doing now. As the leader of the party, there's no need to, what Jide just stated now, there's absolutely no need. There's a way to talk with tact. Some of us who do communication, we stop abusing them.
If people are bitter, let them ventilate
their grievances. So there's a way to talk with tact. They insult you. There's a way to also, just like children, you beat them, you use a hand to also bring them. So as a party, he is the unifying factor of APC. Oshomole today, as he is now, if he's not careful, he may not be doing this party well. Yes, he has the right to say he cannot supervise or supervise over charade, which of course a lot of people want to bring. But if you cannot supervise over charade, what are you doing to mitigate, to ensure that the party remains one, indivisible, and they're strong enough to win the election? Because what is upon us now is how to re-elect is a principle. If he fails in doing that, convincingly, there's a problem.
But isn't that what he's trying to do, to bring the
No. He's trying to do that, but of course, there are people who agree. These people who also agree, abusing them. People who also agree, for instance, they also have followers. And winning politics means that you must have the number. If your number is depleted, there's a problem. So he must also look at that.
Well, we don't know what was discussed when the president met with these governors, that's Governor Fayemi and the rest. But one of the statements one of the governors said, and I quote, is it was to talk on some issues and put our feet on the ground on the issues. I don't know, you could want to dissect that statement, but really, putting the feet ground on an issue when we're trying to resolve.
Well, that's exactly what Jide said. You know, most of them, with due respect, are not organized. It's a party system. It's not a military government. You have to learn how to build consensus mechanism. If you have to lose some, use the word, you lose some, you win some. But to insist that that your party that has concluded an assignment should break the law, should break its own rule because of you. You deprived somebody, that's Amosu, who has deprived somebody. It's not a small senator. You know, Tejuosho, senator. Yes, a senator. He displaced that one. He wants to get his own successor. And that successor has angrily released some data about what I did to even help you to be in power. And help to be governor in 2015. You did this, then the vice president of this country, number 2 citizen, is from that state. You are not working with him. You are not working with a former governor, or Shoba. You are not working with this, and you say that this one, even then there is a leader of the party in the region. And you are not working with them. You want to have your way. You want to be your own man. Because you have Abraham as your father. you know the president. You have to insist, you have to carry people openly, and then you to go and appeal to the president who could not help his own in-law. Even in Katsina State, they still have some problems. Yes, in Katsina State. The president's home state cannot.
The president doesn't get involved.
In Kaduna, where he lives, he lives in Kaduna. Even there are problems there, but he's not interfering. But why do they? You look at the one, our brother.
Your brother.
Your brother. In Imo State. Look at the way they are talking. They are talking, they are not God.
Speaking daggers and using
them. They talking, they are not strategizing how to beat the opposition. This election is going to be an election like no other. And they are supposed to be strategizing, building bridges, and communicating effectively. And then now, look at the way they are using abusive language. Look at the way the chairman of the party himself is talking. The chairman of the party is in Abuja there. He won't be where these people will be strategizing and planning against the party, even in the states where all these crises are persistent. I think that they need to get some communication strategy. How to talk to people. There is power in the world that people use. We practicing journalism, preaching, doing all sorts of things. There is power in the word that you use. Yes. And you should know that it can be destroyed, it can build, depending on the way you talk to people. Using the word like drug addicts and withdrawal syndrome on colleagues and all those things like that, I think it's not the right thing to do. They should get good communication strategy. They should, oratory is permissible in politics, but you communicate effectively in a way, choose your word carefully so that you build bridges.
All right, Jide, Uche Nwosu is saying that nobody can stop him from becoming governor in Imo State, and he has also described the national chairman, that's Adams Ochomhole, as a double-faced progressive who is merely thriving on ignorance.
If Uche begins to abuse people like that, we're in trouble. Because Uche naturally is a gentleman.
Yeah, he's very gentle.
I've met him. You can't hurt a fly. But if you are in the shoes, you'll be frustrated. You will show your frustration. The party earlier dissolved the Gulag-led committee that organized the first primary, and set up another one, set up another committee. Only for the party to go back and say it is the result of the committee that it dissolved that it was going to accept. So there is inconsistency there.
But there was a court,
there's inconsistency there because if you take that kind of decision, courts cannot choose candidates for parties.
I do know that.
Courts cannot choose candidates for parties. If the party resolved, you need to go and read everything, why they opted for Opus Odima. It has nothing to do with the court thing.
That's right.
They can hang on a little bit on court, but that's not the reason. For them, they think that if Okorocha goes ahead, has his wish, has his way, and allows his son-in-law to be the candidate of, and his son-in-law becomes the candidate of the party, they believe that many people will not vote for the APC. But the thing is, even the way it is, because they even left that late, many people had already left the party. Today, ABGA is strong in Imo. For people like Ararume, who helped ensure the APC victory in the last election. They've left for ABGA. Some have joined the PDP. So the crisis in the state has to be, they must find a way to resolve the crisis. Otherwise, it will hurt the party. And this is what we've been telling them, but they left these things for too long. So Uche has a right to be bitter, because at a point he felt, yes, he had it in the bag. And then we are told that it's the old result that was earlier rejected that they are going back to. So anybody in his shoes will show his frustration. But as we've said, it makes no sense for the APC leaders to be abusing themselves the way they are doing. It will not help their cause. Rather, it will make the electorate to see the party as a rudderless entity. So the chairman of the party does not have to respond to every insult. If you take a revolutionary move, people will oppose you. They will abuse you. But at the end of the day, you will feel that you've done what is right. And then those governors say that, oh, when Oshomole was a governor, didn't he bring his own successor, this and that? They don't have to take us to the past.
No.
Because when Muritala during the Civil War was said to have stolen a lot of money, even attacked the bank, but immediately he became head of state. He surrendered all the houses that he built through ill-gotten wealth. He surrendered everything, you know. So it doesn't mean that because Oshomole did some things in the past that were bad, that the rest of you must follow that path. No, it makes no sense to argue like that. He has seen the light. He wants a people-driven democracy. He wants participatory democracy. So we have to encourage him to continue to toe that line.
All right, let's move forward now. The human rights situation in Nigeria will come under global focus as the United Nations Human Rights Council undertakes a review of track records of 14 countries, including Nigeria. The exercise, dubbed Universal Periodic Review, aims to improve human rights situation globally. This is coming just a week after the Nigerian army had scuffles with members of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria in Abuja. Though the dust raised by that clash is gradually settling, the army has warned the group against further provocation. Defense spokesman John Agim told the Shiites to be ready to face the consequences of facing soldiers again, warning that the military has not got rubber bullets. How do we get human rights pass mark in the midst of all of this, Martin?
Well, I don't think we can get a pass mark, and we have not been getting pass mark in Nigeria anyway. But
that's not good for our image.
Yeah, it's not good for our image. But what they want to do in this instance, from what I have read, is universal periodic review. They have not found anybody guilty. They do it, and it's not only Nigeria they are going to review at this time. There's no reason to be apprehensive and be abusing people like they are doing now. We say it's a normal thing that United Nations body will back upon from time to time, a universal periodic review, UPR. And once they do that, they look at prevailing situation, they look, NGOs will submit data, and so many organizations, they ask questions, and they will confront even the countries that they are reviewing with those questions to answer some questions. So it's nothing to be fearful about. It is a periodic review. They do, but all that, the specific objective is to ensure that human rights are not abused from country to country, and it is not something that's extraordinary, except that what we see from what is going on now, what we see.
From now,
yes.
They'll do interviews, they'll carry out investigations, and so people will give back this same report of what we see.
That's what we see. What we see happening with the way they have been handling some demonstrators, with the way they are handling them, the way they are shooting them, they are saying we don't have rubber bullet. The people have already made up their mind that these people are guilty. And really, we cannot say that they are not. If there is a report tomorrow that they are not guilty from what we have seen, then we will say that this body is not.
So that is why you're basing it that we may not get the pass mark.
We not get the pass mark.
I don't want to anticipate that we'll not get a pass mark, because this review is not a death sentence on any country.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, so we have 14, and this UN does it 3 times every year, which brings about 42 countries that will be reviewed every year. With Saudi Arabia is also there, where you have these Khashoggi issues also there. And some other, I think Algeria also, they are all part of this this group. So we may even come out of it clean, in quote.
Because Human Rights Watch actually, when this issue between the Shiites and the army came up, the Human Rights Watch made a statement with regards to the live ammunition that was used. I think I read a statement from them. And so you think that will come out of it clean?
It might come up. It might come up during the review. This issue of Shiite military face-off might come up. But that's what I'm saying, is that I do not want to preempt whatever the reports that will be done by, I think there's a committee called the Troikas.
Yes, Troikas.
Troikas will come up at the end of the day after the exercise. But again, so many countries are facing this trouble, because everywhere we are troubled from left, from right and middle. So governments also have a right to also make sure that elements in the system whether they have the right to protest or not, and they also do it within the framework of the law. When people attempt to take laws into their hands, and the government cannot just sit back. But the issue of using, this issue of threat of life, that's what I think it is absolutely wrong, because that's the job of the police. Because the police are supposed to quell whatever a civil insurrection you have in the system. Not that's why the issue of water bullets come up. Because police are also supposed to use shield when the demonstrators are throwing stones. The shield is supposed to guide the police. Yes. But the soldiers don't do that. So soldiers should not live anywhere, even be found 5 kilometers close to wherever there's any civil demonstration. That's where my fear is. But even though I say I will not preempt the report of the troikas, but we might not. Nobody's going to face any firing squad at the end of the day.
All right, let's get Jide's perspective on this matter.
I think that generally, successive governments cannot claim that when it comes to respect for the rights of the Nigerian people, that they've done very well.
That's right.
You still see what happens in the police. You still see people being summarily executed without being given the right to fair hearing. Whereas the right to fair hearing is enshrined in the Constitution. It's one of the rights, stipulated in the Nigerian Constitution. And then freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of religion. We still see people being forced, against their wish to not move to a religion of their choice, to not exercise their freedom of worship in our country. So there are so many areas. And then when you arrest people, you must treat them with dignity. We have fear now, and people are saying it, that those who have been arrested by the police, I think Abubakar South, by the army, over the killing of the retired General Kali, that the military should not take the law into its hands. Yes. Because we have a very bad record. There are videos, showing how we treat people without dignity. We subject people to so much horror in the course of extracting information from them when they are detained. All these things, the day that we sanitize our police cells and army detention facilities, and we can be sure that those things are not happening, then people will be able to say, yes, in Nigeria, we respect human rights, and we tick all the boxes once it comes to human rights. Then issue of live ammunition. You have no right to use live ammunition on protesters. We see it happen in other countries. Somebody told me what Trump said, that people who stone security agents, the way they do in Mexico and other places, that stones, if they hit a human being on the face, can be really lethal, that they are going to be treated like, that those stones will be treated like bullets, like a kind of firearm. Now, and I've said, okay, let us see when that day. Americans protest, even against Trump and other people. We see them take over the street. Yes, right. I want to see that day when American soldiers, in any case, soldiers don't quell protest.
No, they don't.
It's only, soldiers are supposed to be the last resort. Last resort. It's the police that are trained. Yes. And if you are talking about stones, as you have said, there is a helmet, and that helmet has protective. That's the protective shield, even in front of your face.
Yes. They also
and then there's another one that they hold. Yes. And they have this laser that they can also use to immobilize you. Yes. They also have cannon.
They also have water spray.
Water cannon, that's what called water cannon. Yes. To spray hot water on you, you will all run away. If we don't have the right equipment to manage this kind of demonstrations, then we should get the right equipment. Not to be using live ammunition. It's too barbaric to be using live ammunition to quell protesters. We saw the kind of protests in Greece.
Massive.
In Venezuela, they will even carry people, they will carry them physically away from the scene.
Yes.
instead of killing them.
Yes.
But in any case, we are in a country where Boko Haram kills 120 in a day.
And then
And
nothing,
then I say,
oh,
Sometimes it's not even front page news.
no, no,
So
no, no,
they
no,
kill
no.
the
20, so
human
it's only
life,
20.
yeah, human life
It's cheap.
He said it's 20
has become
it's 20
cheap in our
only,
country.
20 only.
That's why the army can come up and be using life ammunition
Ammunition.
and be
And
even
then
be
they are saying,
threatening, be
everyone
threatening
is
that
saying we
we
don't
don't
have,
have rubber. Were you supposed to
In
even
the first place.
confront
Even
protesters?
5
All
kilometers
right,
from there.
gentlemen, we have run out of time, but I must thank you for your
Thank you.
contributions
Yeah, thank
on
you.
the show. Well, that's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.